All right, so again, my name is Chris Mahler. I'm middle school social studies in Louisiana, 8th grade. How do I use Edulastic? Well, in my particular school district, we're big on standards and the kids meeting the standards, as I'm sure all of your districts are as well. And so I love these standard-based reports because, as Nathan mentioned earlier, you can not only look at a single test, but you can compare it to multiple tests because those standards, those grade level expectations build upon one another. So you see them over and over and over as you go through the curriculum. And so it makes it a little bit easier to compare and see the growth that you're experiencing or see where certain kids are struggling, because it will allow you to break it down by question, by student, by subgroup of students, and even just test to test. We're very big on common assessments. So I can look at every common assessment that I've given the students and see their progress as it goes. Right here is the performance based off of one of our first unit tests that we did. That's a common assessment. It covers the War of 1812 and the Battle of New Orleans. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but in Louisiana, we do Louisiana history in 8th grade. It's state specific. We try to cut out all the US history because that gets hit a lot over the years. So right here, I can see that my lowest standard was 8.1.1 and it got 86%. And that's phenomenal. But again, as Nathan said before, I can go back and I can look at this and try to see what percentage of my students missed it. Were they here that day? Did they not understand something that I need to go back and correct? And then we can see in the rest of them that they scored in the low 90 percentile, which is really, really good. Then from that first assessment to the second assessment, my overall average was a 34 when the kids first walked in. And I was freaking out, y'all. I was freaking out. And the district said, just chill, just do what you do. And then when we got to the second one, we saw a 24% improvement. And that made me feel real good because once you start digging down in this data, you find exactly where your hard case is in, and you can start creating small groups based off the data that you get from Edulastic. I got introduced to Edulastic by a coworker, and I actually harped on my district to purchase it for the district. I was using class fees to buy it every single year until we ended up buying a district license, because this data being real time was just the savior. That and the auto grade features are great. One of the best features, and it's a relatively new feature in the premium edition, is the playlist. The playlist is your best friend. Once you have decided how you're going to present a unit, you can build a unit playlist of assessments around your whole plan and push that out to the students all at once. And you can give them piece by piece. This first one on early European settlers, I can push out just this first one, and then we cover it. And after we cover more information, I can push out this second one. It comes in really, really huge when it comes to me having to take a day off. This one right here is my sub plan for that date when I had to miss. I gave the students the assignment. They knew to look into Edulastic for all the information on the assessment. And then each one of these is an assessment, but in the tools, in the teacher tools that you have in Edulastic, you can actually turn it into a practice. So you can give them the practice that they need working on the standards, understanding the information without necessarily having to put a grade on it if you don't want to. This is my be all end all. We do have a social studies specific state test in Louisiana, and I like to prep my kids for that as much as possible. And this time limit right here is the bee's knees. It's the best thing that was ever created in Edulastic. The kids aren't used to being timed. When they do their state testing, that is the only time they have a hard time limit on them. And so Edulastic allows you to recreate that environment so that you can get them used to working under that tight deadline. And in addition to that, if you have any 504 SPED accommodations that call for like extended time and a half, when their test times out, you redirect it and it allows you to change the time. So if you give 45 minutes the first time around and they're only supposed to get 20 minutes extra, You can reset the timer when you redirect it to 20 minutes. And so they have their specific extended time down to the minute. And Edulastic tracks that. And if you do your reteach and retest, it tracks how many times they've attempted the same assessment. I also love these tools that they have right here. It gets them used to looking to the bar to find a particular tool. And this scratch pad comes in huge when I go cross-curricular. I like to, we cover a lot of economics because we have to deal with the oil field. And so when I start throwing in economic concepts on the rise and fall and GDP and stuff like that, I get to put in math problems to be cross-curricular. And then I get to sit down and see the process. And I can even share the information off the scratch pad because I get to see it on my end. I get to share that back with our math department and say, look, so we went over this and this is the formula we gave them and this is how they tried to solve it. And so we get to share that data with the math department and they get to see, different areas that they can help work on. These are my favorite questions, the drag and drops, for multiple reasons, because you can sit here and you can categorize things. One of my favorite ones is the same as Nathan's. I love to put in a Louisiana parish map and then have these little boxes and have the students learn where the parishes are. Lots of our students can say all the funny names that are our parishes, but they have no clue where they are. And I feel personally that's a big space where kids need to know. Like, you don't just need to know a name, you need to know where that actually is when somebody's talking about it in the news or otherwise. And so we like to do the drop down. The labeling for type in, if you have a pre-made timeline, I love to do pre-made timelines and have them put the events in chronological order, because that's one of our big standards that the kids struggle with. Being able to put events in order timeline, it's not necessarily memorizing dates so much as it's remembering when the important events happen, because you can work it out in the end, but you've got to get the kids into that practice of being able to sequence things. And that's where resequencing comes in, because a lot of times they'll start to get the standard on a horizontal timeline, but then you turn that exact same timeline vertical and all of a sudden they don't know what to do with it. Well, you take a resequence question like this and you put your timeline information on there and you have them pull them and put them in the sequence just like they would on a timeline. And that gives them practice in the timeline standard yet again, but it also gets them thinking in a vertical style of question.